Good morning, students, and welcome to today's S1 Geography. I hope you all are well and happy. I hope you're all comfortable and that you all have your books, pens, notepads and workbooks ready. So, if you could turn to page 8 of your textbook and we can begin. But before I begin, I'm just going to very briefly, because you all smashed the classwork and the homework last time, good stuff, when we talked about the 4 spheres of the planet that geographers focus on. The 4 spheres. 1, the atmosphere, to do with the air around the planet. 2nd is the biosphere, which is to do with all life, be it plant or animal, on the planet. The 3rd sphere is the hydrosphere, the clue is in the name, and that is to do with water, so the oceans, the rivers, the lakes, etc. And the final one, that most people forget about, is the lithosphere, and that is the hard crust that goes around the planet, that consists of hills, mountains, etc., etc. Okay, so now I've jogged your memory about the spheres. We were talking last time mainly about those spheres, and so that is that human or physical geography? Because there's 2 types, remember. That's right, the physical geography. So today's lesson is human geography. Human geography. Now, we talked a little bit about population explosion, a little bit. And that's what I'm going to start off with. The population, because we're talking about the human geography, okay? So population. The human population reached 7 billion. 7 billion in 2011. By 2011. And there's 2 countries, China, which has the most population, followed by India, which has the 2nd most population. And those 2 countries alone, just those 2 countries, represent 35% of the world's entire population. Now just let that sink in for a bit, yeah? Just those 2 countries are over 1/3 of the entire planet. Yeah? Now, geographers look at population size, and growth. Yeah, they work out the growth rate just by taking the number of deaths away from the people that are born every year. Yeah, and they look at the population size of growth, firstly, which leads them on to the movement of the people. Yeah, because land, there's a finite space of land. Yeah, and the more people that are born have to go elsewhere to look for new resources, new space, etc. So, geographers are interested in the movement of people from place to place, And they are interested in the movement of place to place because this enables them to study the resources that are used. And what do I mean by resources? It could be fuel resources, it could be service resources, it could be space resources, yeah, the land, the space that people use. They also, should I mix it up a bit? I should have wrote that in red. Look at settlements. Now, settlements is a fancy way of saying cities, villages, you might even say a town, etc. Yeah, etc. So all settlements means is cities, villages and towns actually. And this is where people, obviously, because you live in Phnom Penh, most of you, this is where people live. People live and work here. They also play there, don't they? So where people, settlements are where people live and work and play. And different settlements, yeah, have different qualities. And they have different qualities, so the qualities of work will differ. Yeah? So in cities, they will mainly be working for industries, yeah, or service sectors. What do I mean by service sectors? It could be hospitality, restaurants, hotels, could be education, big schools, large schools, could be financial centres like banks, etc. Now, geographers examine where and why. So, geographers pay attention to this part. Geographers pay attention to this part so they can examine all of the information about where and why people choose to live. Do they choose to live in a village? People, choose to live. I mentioned cities earlier, yeah? So if they work in cities, it'd be industries and service. If they work in a village, what do you think the work would entail in general in villages? It might be fishing. It will probably most likely be farming, yeah, agriculture, growing food for people, or it might even be mining. Right. Another section that's quite important to geographers is the development of an area. So let's go here. So development. What do I mean by development? Development just refers to the resources needed, yeah, for the people in either a city or a village or a town. Resources needed. So development refers to the resources needed in a village or a town. And the geographer's viewpoint is they're looking how the people achieve a better standard of living. Yeah. So people, let's say, people, let's say, in developed countries, we'll use that as a DC. So DC will be developed countries. LDC would be less developed countries. So developed countries, we'll say the West. Less developed countries, we can say Africa. It could be parts of China, could be parts of Asia, but I'll use Africa as the main point. Yeah. Many African people, yeah, in the lower developed are poor. The West is rich. Quite obvious, isn't it? But because these are poor, yeah, that affects their housing. It affects their health, and it'll affect their prospects. Very important. Yeah. Whereas in the rest, they're rich, so they'll have nice housing. Yeah, expensive housing. They'll have the best health care. Very good. Whoops, I've gone a bit far. Yeah. And in general, this is not a rule, because obviously there's always some people that go against the rule. The prospects, if you are living and working in the West, in the developed country, are far better. Okay. The one other section, yeah, that I'd like to look at, do they mention it in this page? Yes, they do. So in one of these pages, 8, 9 or 10, yeah, I want you to look for culture, because geographers also are interested in human and their culture. But I'm not going to write that on the board, because it would appear that I give you too many answers. Because I'm too kind. So I want you to, similar to what I've done with settlements and development, write a few notes from the book, yeah, summarize what's written, take out the key points, the key facts, and add it to your notebooks for culture. For culture. Right. All you've got to do for homework, yeah, because we've not gone far enough yet to hit the workbook, yeah, is make this nice and neatly in your book. I want you to give me a good explanation of what culture means, yeah, for various parts of the world. And on the bottom of page 10, there's a let's try it. Select 2 aspects of physical geography and explain how they affect you. And select 2 aspects of human geography and explain that away. So, not too much homework, but it is imperative that you get these basics written in your books, yeah? Don't just take my notes off the board. Take my notes off the board, put them in your notebook, but then read every word on these pages, yeah? Because then once it's in your head, yeah, if you read it, you listen to my voice, you write it, you're tripling up the effect in your brain, and then you're going to pass your exams. Okay? That will sum up today's lesson nicely. So I'm going to stop there, and we shall carry on where I left off next time. Thanks, guys.